We have a hearing with the Office of Attorney General and a couple other ones. We're going to start with the Attorney General's office. We do have Senator Clays is online, so he'll be listening in and also participating at that time. So, Martin, if you'd like to go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman, Committee. My name is Martin DeBoer. I'm a fiscal analyst with Legislative Research. I'll be discussing the Office of the Attorney General's budget this morning. The first few pages, as you commonly are aware, this is a high-level overview. On page 4, you have a general breakdown of their expenditures by categories. Page 5, we touch on their court cost fund, as well as the Medicaid Fraud Protection Revolving Fund, and the budget begins on page 6. Subsequent to the 23 legislative session, there was one adjustment made to the $38.8 million that was appropriated for the Attorney General. There was a reappropriation of $216,280 SGF, and this is based on unspent funds in FY24. The agency submits a revised estimate of $82 million. This includes $11.1 million SGF. This is an all funds increase of $43.2 million or 111.5%, and an SGF increase of $1.4 million or 14.5% above the FY24 approved amount. The revised estimate includes $2 million and 5 FTE positions in supplemental requests. The revised estimate includes $600,000 SGF in supplemental funding for the state agency required 25% match to continue receiving approximately $2 million in federal funds in FY24. There's $1 million of SGF for natural gas litigation funding in FY24. On the following page, top of page 7, there is $56,954 SGF and 1 FTE for an accounting specialist for the reorganization of the administration division. There is $165,923 SGF and 2 FTE positions for an investigator in the Affirmation Civil Enforcement Unit and a special agent in charge in the Licensing and Inspection Unit, and this is for the reorganization of the Civil Division. There's $102,723, all from the Crime Victims Compensation Fund, for 1 FTE for an associate division chief in the Crime Victims Compensation Unit. This is for the reorganization of the Victim Services Division. There's $83,066, all from federal funds, and 1 FTE for an epidemiologist in the Child Death Review Board. This is in the reorganization for the Youth Services Division. There's $200,000 SGF to recover funds due to a shortage in the court cost fund in FY24. And then the very last one there, you have the pay plan shortfall, which is $37,200 SGF to account for a shortfall in appropriations for a legislative pay plan in 2023 SB 25. At the bottom of the page, there's $41.2 million of base budget expenditure adjustments. Those are in aid to locals. There was an increase of $7.8 million, and this is for the Municipalities Fights Addiction Fund of $7.8 million. And a decrease in expenditures from the Federal Forfeiture Fund of $25,000. In other assistance, there was an increase of $34.6 million, and this includes $17,136 SGF. And this is primarily attributable to increased expenditures from the Tort Claims Fund of $11.3 million and the Kansas Fights Addiction Fund of $23.4 million. At the bottom of the page, there is an all other adjustments category, and there's a decrease of $1.3 million in various expenditure categories. On the following page, it breaks down those general categories. The agency estimate includes 200.2 combined on and off budget FTE positions. This is an increase of 13.4 FTE positions above the FY24 approved amount, and this increase is attributable to their supplemental request and the reorganization of the agency's programs. In the middle of the page, the governor's recommendation. The governor recommends $81.7 million. This includes $10.7 million SGF. And 198.2 FTE positions for FY24. This is an all funds decrease of $208,638 or 0.3%, and an SGF decrease of $349,412 or 3.2%, and 2 FTE positions below the agency's FY24 revised estimate. And the governor's recommendation includes all of the supplemental request except for the reorganization for civil division of 165,923 SGF and 2 FTE positions and the litigation recovery fund shortage of 200,000 SGF. With that, I'll stand for questions on 24.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes. Senator?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thanks for being here. Can you just briefly describe the court cost fund? What's that mechanism? Is that where the fees are collected by the courts?
Right, it's a recovery fund, so the funds that are recovered from various cases, they go back into that fund. So because there's a decrease, there's been less money recovered.
So it's a funding source for the AG's office?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing none?
Thank you, Chairman. FY 25 begins on page 10. So the agency requests $46.7 million. This includes $10.9 million SGF in 25. This is an all funds decrease of $35.2 million or 43% and an SGF decrease of $183,533 or 1.7% below the FY 24 revised estimate. The request includes $1.3 million and 5 FTE positions in following enhancement requests. There is $600,000 SGF for enhancement funding to continue the state-required 25% match to receive approximately $2 million from federal funds for FY 25. There is $59,673 SGF and 1 FTE for the accounting specialist and the reorganization for the administration division. There is $173,485 SGF and 2 FTE positions for the reorganization of the civil division. There is $103,663, all from the Crime Victims Compensation Fund, and 1 FTE for the Associate Division Chief in the reorganization of the Victim Services Division. On top of page 11, there's $87,952, all from federal funds for an enhancement, and 1 FTE positions for an epidemiologist in the Child Death Review Board for the reorganization of the Youth Services Division. There's $900,000 to recover funds due to a shortage in the court cost fund in FY 25. Now, this amount is offset by a decrease in expenditures of $900,000 from that fund. There is $300,000 SGF and enhancement funding for the Victim Information Notification Every Day, the VINE system for FY 25. In their base budget, there is a decrease of $34.5 million. This is for aid to locals, and this includes $4.4 million aid to locals expenditures. This is a decrease of $5.7 million or 56.5% below the FY 24 revised request. And this is due to lower revenue estimates from the opioid settlements. There is $19 million in other assistance expenditures, and this is a decrease of $28.3 million, which is 59.7% below the 24 revised estimate. And the decrease is $17 million for the Kansas Fights Addiction Fund due to lower revenues from opioid settlements, and $11.3 million from the Torts Claims Fund due to a transfer increase in FY 24 that will not reoccur in FY 25. The agency request includes $200.2 combined on and off budget FTE positions for FY 25, which is the same number as the FY 24 revised estimate. Bottom of the page, the governor recommends $46.6 million. This includes $9.9 million SGF and 198.2 FTE positions for 25. This is an all funds decrease of $173,485 or 0.4%, and an SGF decrease of $1 million or 9.3% and 2 FTE positions below the FY 25 request. The governor's recommendation includes the following adjustments. The governor did not recommend the adoption of the reorganization for civil division or the litigation recovery fund shortage. With that, I'll stand for questions on FY 25.
Other questions? Any questions? Senator Clays, does he have any questions?
No questions at this time.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Now we'll hear from Attorney General. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I'll just hit a few highlights for you and be happy to answer your questions. I'm happy to report that over the course of this first year in office, we've had a lot of success. I'm also happy to report that the approximately $600,000 that this committee gave us that we requested in order to retain our attorneys that we were losing and hire more attorneys has been largely successful. We're not all the way to where we need to be, but it has achieved its objective, and we're very appreciative of that. I'll start there with staffing levels. So when I came in, we were 25 attorneys short. In other words, we had 25 attorney FTEs that were not filled. And we have brought on a net total of 24 new staff members, 11 of which are attorneys. To dig into that 11 net gain in attorneys, we hired a total of 18 new attorneys, and we lost 7 through natural attrition, like a spouse moves away, and we lost some to counties who are still, because they're able to offer more than the state does, are still able to poach our attorneys from time to time. But we're in a much better position than we were. Our salaries are closer to competitive. There are still some counties that can offer more, but we're in a much better position. I'm optimistic that we will eventually fill all of those 25 vacancies, not just the 11 that we are at, that we have filled so far. Right now, roughly 29 of our 196 FTEs are vacant. Comparatively to last year, we had 33 vacancies out of 179 FTEs. Let me talk a little bit about some of the accomplishments of some of our divisions with the money that you provided last year. One of it, which is concealed carry. I'm very pleased about this one. The processing time for an application for a concealed carry permit was at 49 days when we came in. It's now down to 25 days. And the one thing we thought might happen was the elimination of the concealed carry fee, which I appreciate this legislature doing at our office's request in 2023, did not create as large a spike as we anticipated on July 1st. And so the division was able to continue dropping that processing time. And I would say that the 25 days we're at right now is about as low as you can go because of the sort of inherent, some things are just inherent in the process and they do take time. So we're really pleased with that. We processed roughly 7,000 applications for new licenses and 28,000 renewals. Special litigation is the division designed to protect Kansans from federal overreach and protect the Constitution. The division also does things like defending state laws as well, which previously would have fallen to the Solicitor General's division. So, for example, when this legislature passed SB 180 last year, that's the one regarding the change of sex markers on birth certificates and driver's licenses. We're using the Special Litigation Division to defend that. The division is only 3 attorneys, plus me. This is the division where I provide my help as an attorney and have been the lead attorney in some of these cases. But there's been quite a lot accomplished. A number of lawsuits against the federal government where they've exceeded statutory authority or constitutional authority. Some of the ones you may have heard about, we are co-leading with Texas on the Prairie Chicken Challenge. That's the one where the federal government has issued a regulation, or not a regulation, but a listing of the lesser prairie chicken as an endangered or threatened species, and the effect of that listing would be to shut down oil exploration and greatly restrict grazing in some portions of Kansas that are covered by that species habitat. There's a number of firearms regulations that we have been challenging. One is the pistol brace rule. We are not the lead state there. We are one of the states providing support. There's another one that potentially might come up, and we have written a comment on that with other states joining us in the comment, which is a vast expansion of what it means to be engaged in the business of dealing firearms, which could potentially restrict person-to-person transactions, members of family selling firearms to one another. So that's the type of thing this litigation division does. I'd like to also mention a recent victory just last week. This division wrote a letter to the New York Stock Exchange. They have the authority to issue rules that are approved by the SEC governing trading on the exchange. And this particular rule would have created a new tradable asset called a natural asset company, which essentially would amass capital for the purpose of buying land and then locking up that land so it couldn't be used for exploitation of natural resources, of oil, et cetera. Couldn't be used for farming. And we pointed out that that would violate the law. And to their credit, the New York Stock Exchange withdrew their rule in response to our letter, their proposed rule. I want to mention a couple of other things. There's another lawsuit potentially on the horizon that this division would handle. We led a 17-state coalition providing comments against a proposed Biden administration rule that would give Obamacare benefits to certain aliens who are not legally present in the United States. We anticipate that the administration is not going to follow our recommendation and cease and desist. We think they may go forward probably in the spring, and it is likely that Kansas would be leading that lawsuit. In my written testimony, you can see a whole bunch of other things that this division has done, but I just wanted to highlight those. Moving on to the Public Protection Division, this is the division that focuses on protecting Kansans from fraud, scams, and abuse. This division recovered $481,000 in restitution, as well as settlements of $1.9 million. One particular incident I wanted to highlight, and it's in your written testimony. We had one case where an elderly woman was being hit by a scammer, and he was trying to convince her to basically give her life savings, convert it to crypto, and transfer it to him. Fortunately, one of our attorneys in the office was able to talk directly to the woman, convince her not to send the money, and she was minutes away from losing about $800,000 to a scammer. So sometimes we actually get involved in a very direct, personal way in assisting Kansans. The Criminal Division. Excuse me. That division consists of 4 sections: major crimes, economic crimes, Medicaid fraud control, and victims' rights. Just a few numbers to highlight. Medicaid fraud control ordered $131,000 in restitution. Economic crimes recovered $2.8 million in restitution. Solicitor General's office, this is of course led by Tony Powell, former appellate judge. And this is the division that represents the state in all state and civil and criminal appeals. We also have contracts with 50 counties where we handle their criminal appeals for them. There's been won't go through all the numbers for you, but we've written quite a few briefs and argued great number of cases. And thus far, my office has issued 13 Attorney General opinions. The Office of the Medicaid Inspector General has identified $16 million in wasteful spending, $1.4 million in overpayments, and $1.7 million in potential savings. These are recommendations typically provided to other Kansas government agencies that are administering these programs. Youth Services Division, it's a very important division. It was established last year to improve the ability of this agency to serve and prioritize Kansas children. We put other services together into this, so it's the Youth Suicide Prevention Program, the DARE program, and the State Child Death Review Board. The youth suicide prevention, I want to highlight one success, and that is that the app that is for using when high school age students someone senses that a friend of theirs is contemplating suicide. There's been 5,948 downloads of this app, which provides assistance and contacts and support in situations like that. Our DARE coordinator has trained 235 DARE officers. Moving down to victim services, this division, obviously, as the name suggests, provides direct assistance to crime victims and their families. It includes the Batter Intervention Program, and it also administered state-funded grants that are intended to serve victims of crimes. The crime victim compensation portion of that division provided $2.7 million in compensation to victims of crime. Also, the VINE system, I want to highlight that here. That's the automated victims notification system. This is the system that tells you that the criminal that committed some crime against you or your loved ones has been transferred in custody from one institution to another, or has been given parole, or has been released. It notifies the victims in real time. And the VINE system provided 117,000 notifications during the first year here. And that's, I think, really extraordinary how much information we are getting to victims. The grant awards, $2.6 million roughly, while I've been in office. So I'm proud the work our division, our office has done this year. I hope we will be able to continue our success. I'm also, as I mentioned, hopeful that we will be able to finally get to full staffing with our attorneys. I want to speak generally about the budget terms now. As you may know, and as was suggested earlier, the agency had a couple of unusually large settlements in the last few years, and that allowed our court cost fund to swell so that a huge portion of funds could be used from that, taken from that fund and funding the agency, and then SGF funds could be, the things that were previously funded by SGF were being funded by the court cost fund. While we are still bringing in some very large settlements, we're not bringing them in at the level before. Let me give you an example. There were just, in fiscal year 22, there was $14.4 million in settlements to the court cost fund. In fiscal year 23, which included, of course, the first portion of my work as the Attorney General, it was $20.1 million. But both of those were unusually high numbers. Typically, like over the previous 10 years, you would see the settlement total in a given year being less than $1 million. This year, in fiscal year 2024, we expect that the number will be well over $1 million, but it's not going to be in the $20 million range like it was in the past. So I mention all of that to say that previously before I came in as Attorney General, the administration of the Attorney General's office had been using court cost funds to sort of backfill things that had previously been funded by the SGF and didn't request SGF funding for those things. Now, because the court cost fund is being depleted, we want to restore the situation where the SGF was being used. So, for example, Medicaid fraud and abuse was previously funded entirely by SGF until fiscal year 20, but from fiscal years 20 to 23, and that amount is $600,000 a year, and it's accompanied by a 75% federal match. But for those years, those 4 years, it has been funded by the court cost fund. We're asking that it now be returned to being funded by SGF because the court cost fund has been depleted. We're also requesting $1 million from the SGF to be placed into a budget unit established for the purposes of pursuing natural gas litigation. This is 2 lawsuits we're involved in over Winter Storm Uri, where Kansans were unfairly subjected to, we believe, unlawfully high natural gas prices. As you may have heard, we brought in new outside counsel to help with this. This $1 million is money that we fully expect to recover, assuming we prevail in the litigation. So this is money up front to pay for her various costs in the litigation. And we have a mixed contract, pays for some of the attorney's fees, but we expect to prevail and recover all of that. But we need the $1 million up front. Another subcomponent of the request is funding for the VINE program. As I mentioned, VINE delivered over 117,000 notifications to victims of crime in the past year. Serves the entire state of Kansas. All 105 counties have been involved. But in July of 2023, KDHE notified our office that per direction from CMS, which is the Federal Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, KDHE, which had been funding VINE, could no longer continue using those federal funds to fund VINE. And so therefore, we are now asking for SGF funds to continue funding VINE. So it's not as if we were asking, and that's roughly $300,000. So we're not asking for more money in as much as we are asking to do, to continue doing something that KDHE had previously been doing. As has already been mentioned, we're requesting 5 additional FTE positions. Several will be funded with non-SGF revenue. For example, our Associate Division Chief in Victim Services would be primarily supported by the Crime Victims Compensation monies. The Administration Division accounting staff, that would be funded by SGF. An epidemiologist for our Child Death Review Board would be funded with federal funds from a new grant. The FTE regarding a an investigator for the affirmative civil enforcement in our civil division. That's what was being referred to by the previous conferee as reorganization of our civil division. So there's an investigator and a special agent in charge. Those are positions that would be fully or partially funded by SGF. Then there's an additional $200,000 in SGF funds we're requesting just to supplement the rest of the money that had been used, but coming from the court cost fund, so that we can be essentially, not dependent upon the court cost fund to do what would be considered garden variety expenses for our office. So I think that covers all the numbers, and I would be happy to stand for your questions. And I once again thank the committee for the help in being able to be more competitive when we try to hire attorneys and we retain our attorneys.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Senator?
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Attorney General. I'm a big supporter of the VINE program. So glad that's in the budget. So important for our victims out there. I am impressed with a lot of the victim services and some of these other pieces that you brought to the table here today. About that civil reorganization, do you have any idea why the governor didn't go with that at all?
I don't have any idea why the government, we didn't get a clear signal as to why not.
And on the funding, replacing the court costs, it's 200 and then it's like 600 or 800 after that. Is that your kind of, you're foreseeing that this is going to continue in this kind of direction?
I foresee that. I don't, let's say we have an amazing $20 million settlement a year from now. I don't think we should get in the habit of taking money out of the court cost fund to fund things that are really part of the every year business of the Attorney General's office. And by the way, many of those do go into SGF. Most of those do go back to SGF. So I'd rather see the settlements go to SGF and then the legislature keep funding our agency with the things we would normally assume are going to happen every year.
I was going to applaud. We had a presentation by the insurance commissioner in FI&I about some of the fraud recovery that we've had over the last year, I think it was, and applaud your folks working on that fraud detection. I hope we can do more in the cyber area of our citizens. And one negative I'll say is, for me personally, is I hope we can focus more on our victims inside of the state of Kansas and the criminal and the crimes versus some of this special litigation that are more ideological inside of my purview.
I will say this in terms of the budgeting of all of this. So we have vacancies in every division. And at this stage of the game, if there is a good attorney who's willing to work for us and has the right experience and is in criminal, we'll hire him for criminal. Or if in civil fraud, we'll hire him there. Or if it's in special litigation, we'll hire him there. So we're hiring everywhere. Special litigation hasn't taken attorneys from elsewhere or taken potential attorneys from elsewhere. Criminal is where we really demand experience in criminal prosecution. And that remains where the shortages are hitting us the hardest. So I just want to reassure you that our work in these constitutional cases is not in any way, pulling attorneys from the other divisions where this important work is done.
That's fair. I just, for me personally, and it is a personal point of view, I feel like our time is better spent on our citizens here and a little less on the ideological front, but I understand that might be a little different than your focus, so.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Senator Clays?
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I don't have any questions. We will not deliberate today because of the timing, and we'll get that scheduled and be back shortly.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here today. Thank you
very much.
We'll move on to the Kansas Insurance Department, and we have Molly Pratt.
I should have worn heels. Hi, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Molly Pratt, and I am a fiscal analyst with the Legislative Research Department. I will be presenting the budget for the Insurance Department. Here with me today is the Commissioner of Insurance, Ms. Vicki Schmidt, as well as Bobby Mariani, Charlotte Daubert, and Eric Turek, all from the Insurance Department. So the mission of the Kansas Insurance Department is to protect the insurance consumers and securities consumers of Kansas and to serve the public interest through the supervision, control, and regulation of persons and organizations transacting the business of insurance and securities within the state. The Insurance Department established 2 programs to achieve their mission to protect consumers: the Insurance Regulation Program and the Securities Regulation Program. Through these programs, the agency provides high-quality services in an efficient and professional manner while adhering to the ethical principles of the legal, accounting, and law enforcement professions. On pages 2 and 3, you'll find a summary of the budget request. The 2023 legislature approved a budget of $39.4 million, all from special revenue funds, for 2024. No adjustments have been made subsequently to that amount. The agency requests a revised estimate of $38.8 million, all from special revenue funds and expenditures, and 135.25 FTE positions. This is a decrease of $605,761, or 1.5%, below the fiscal year 2024 approved amount. The decrease is primarily attributable to a drop in expenditures for professional services. Furthermore, there is also a 0.25 FTE decrease due to a 0.5 FTE position now being classified as a 0.75 FTE position. In fiscal year 2024, the governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate. For fiscal year 2025, the agency requests $39.5 million, all from special revenue funds and expenditures, and 135.25 FTE positions. The increase of $689,176, or 1.8%, above the FY 2024 revised estimate is the result of greater advertising cost, as well as an increase in aid to the Firefighters Relief Fund. For fiscal year 2025, the governor concurs with the agency's request. On page 4, you'll find a summary of the expenditures and financing for the agency by category, as well as descriptions of the major funds within the agency. The Insurance Department Service Regulation Fund was established for the purpose of maintaining the operations of the Kansas Insurance Department. The fund consists of fees charged by the agency, 1% of premium taxes received from insurance companies, and an annual assessment imposed as deemed necessary to fund operations. The agency estimates that it will collect $11.7 million in insurance license fees, insurance premiums, and other miscellaneous revenue in both fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025. When expenditures and transfers are taken into account, the agency estimates that the ending balance for the Service Regulation Fund will be $64.9 million in fiscal year 2024 and $64.5 million in fiscal year 2025. The State Firefighters Relief Fund is used to distribute aid to local firefighter relief associations throughout the state. Every insurance company that writes fire and lightning insurance pays to the Insurance Department 2% of the total amount of annual premiums. The collected money is then credited to the State Firefighters Relief Fund and distributed in an equitable manner to the various townships, fire districts, and county FRAs. The agency believes it will collect an additional $500,000 in insurance premiums, resulting in $18.5 million in aid to the Firefighters Relief Fund for fiscal year 2025. For the Workers' Compensation Fund, they maintain liability for second injury lawsuits ruled on prior to 1993. In addition, the Workers' Compensation Fund acts as an impleader in civil court actions when an injured worker's employer is uninsured and unable to pay for the medical and disability payments, or in some cases cannot be located. Finally, the Securities Act Fee Fund is financed by fees received from security agents, investor advisor representatives, broker-dealers, investment advisor firms, mutual fund portfolios, and investments trust. A legal settlement required the commissioner to place a moratorium on fees fees assessed through the Securities Act Fee Fund for fiscal year 2022 and continuing as long as necessary to analyze and adjust fee structures. For that reason, the agency did not receive any fees in fiscal year 2022 or 2023, though the agency does anticipate reinstating the assessment of fees in fiscal year 2024 and estimates that it will collect $8 million in both fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 2025. On page 8, you'll find an analysis of the 2024 request. No adjustments were made to the $39.4 million appropriated by the legislature for fiscal year 2024. The agency submits a revised estimate of $38.8 million, all from special revenue funds, in fiscal year 2024, which is a decrease of $605,761, or 1.5% below the fiscal year 2024 approved amount. The revised estimate includes a decrease of $864,887 in expenditures in professional services. Specifically, the agency believes that it will need less monies in 2024 to contract with licensed professionals, such as attorneys and auditors who help regulate the insurance industry. Furthermore, the agency notes that it removed federal grant funding from the revised estimate because the agency was not able to pursue a change to the Kansas Essential Health Benefits Plan due to a proviso in 2023 Senate Bill 25. The revised estimate also includes $258,326 in other adjustments due to increased expenditures for computer hardware and support equipment, as well as other supplies and materials. Also included is 135.25 FTE positions, which is an increase of 0.25 FTE above the number approved by the 2023 legislature. And in 2024, the governor concurs with the revised estimate. Would you like me to move on to fiscal year 2025? Okay. On page 11, you'll find the analysis for fiscal year 2025. The agency requests $39.5 million, all from special revenue funds. This is an increase of $689,176, or 1.8% above the fiscal year 2024 revised estimate. Although there are no major changes from the fiscal year 2024 revised estimate, the request includes increased advertising costs for the agency's anti-fraud and investor education campaign and increased aid to local firefighter relief associations. Also included is 135.25 FTE positions, which is the same number as the agency's fiscal year 2024 revised estimate. For fiscal year 2025, the governor concurs with the agency's request. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Molly. Are there any questions? Senator Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much. I did have a quick question on page 8. I'm just curious that it looks like we lost federal grant funding because of a budget proviso in SB 25. Can you go into a little bit more detail in that? Normally, we like to maximize federal funding, so.
Yes, to my knowledge, they're received, you'll see on page 1, I believe, that they received $676,000 in federal funds in fiscal year 2023. And due to a proviso from this last legislative session, they were not able to pursue a change to the Health Benefits Act in Kansas, which resulted in them removing the federal grant fund money. The agency could likely provide more details on why exactly they weren't able to pursue the federal grant monies. And if not, I'd be happy to reach out to them after the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Clays?
No, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
Now have from the agency and Director. Thank you for coming today.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation to come. Happy Kansas Day. This is, I birthed a child on this day, so it's happy birthday to him. I know, I think I might be the only politician here that did that. Anyway, claim to fame. Good morning, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here. After having served on the Ways and Means subcommittees, I know how much time and effort this takes, so thank you for your commitment to doing that. Can I address Senator Erickson's question real quick so I don't lose track of it? We had a grant to look at our essential health benefits on the ACA plans, and we had pursued a federal grant for that, and we had received that, but the legislature put a stop to that in a proviso last year. So we refunded the money back to the federal government since we could not pursue that essential health benefit changes that we were seeking to do. And I'm happy to talk to you more about that if you like. I wanted to share a few of our department highlights with you today and go over some of the things that we've been able to do. I wanted let you know that I'll be turning over the technical portion of this to Bobby Mariani. She is our Director of Human Resources and Administration. Charlotte Daubert is also here with us, our Comptroller, along with Eric Turek and Kyle Strothman with our Government and Public Affairs. The mission of the Insurance Department is to regulate, educate, and advocate, and we take all three of those very seriously. As Commissioner, it's my goal to efficiently carry out that mission statement, but also effectively serve all Kansans in that process. I'm proud that I believe that the department has never been more committed than it is today to carrying out those efforts and to serving both the insurance industry and our citizens in this great state of Kansas. I've talked about it in the past, but I wanted to revisit Senate Bill 37. It was passed in 2021. It moved, you all helped us with that legislation, and we moved the processing of our licenses over to the National Insurance Producer Registry, or NIPR. When we were asked to write a fiscal note as that bill was being considered, it was a guesstimate as to how much that bill would decrease the revenues to the state, to the insurance department. And you know, we estimated it would decrease our revenues by $5.2 million. We are now past that 2-year period of time as of June 30th, and that money saved industry money, and I'm happy to report that we were wrong in our estimate. We actually saved $5.4 million to the industry instead of $5.2 million. So that was a big cost savings. Last year, you passed House Bill 2093. That allowed us to eliminate certain group-funded pool assessments, and so we returned about $150,000 back to those of unused funds back to the pools. Due to the healthy balance of the workers' compensation fund for fiscal year 2024, I decided to not charge an assessment fee. That will save insurers about $3 million compared to the previous year. And again, that money staying in the pockets of businesses. It hasn't all been about reductions in the industry. I know that if you've seen me talk anywhere, I always talk about our Consumer Assistance Division. I'm very proud of them. They do great work. We have great people working in that area we have great people working in all of our areas of the Department of Insurance, but they excel in their empathy skills. Anyway, I know that we talk a lot about what we do for consumers in that area, and this year we broke another record. We recovered $16 million for Kansans in this year alone. I thought we'd set the bar pretty high last year, so now we have, in the last 2 years, we've had our largest recoveries 2 years in a row. Since 2019, since I took office, the department has recovered more than $35 million for Kansans. And that number does not include the assistance that we get from the NAIC Life Insurance Policy Locator. That is a fantastic tool. We would love for you to talk about it in your newsletters with your constituents or any place else you go. We have found more than $69.6 million in life insurance policies for Kansas since 2019. And I might remind you that when there is a the life insurance industry uses a master death file, and so when they are notified of a deceased person, then they immediately start trying to locate beneficiaries. If in 3 years they don't locate anyone, it goes into the treasurer and to the unclaimed property. So we really like to try to do that on the front. We heavily promote that life insurance policy locator, and we refer hundreds of Kansans every year there. Those are just a few of the things I wanted to highlight. I am really proud of the work we've been doing, and I know that we're going to continue on that path, and really do thank you for the opportunity to be able to come before you today and to talk about our budget. And now I'm going to turn it over to Bobby because she's a real expert on the numbers. So unless you have questions for me. Okay, Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate being here. I am Bobby Mariani with the Insurance Department. As Commissioner Schmidt said, we are trying to look at ways to be more efficient, to run our operation as efficiently and effectively as we can. I do want to highlight just a couple of things on the budget that the commissioner didn't get to. She did talk about our fee reduction. We do continue in that area. The bill that she talked about last year, we did lower the licensing fees. We had another bill passed last year, thank you for that, which will help us to lower them again by, we're estimating 1.2 million. That started January, so we'll have to see how this year plays out with the reduction of those fees. We did lower the securities registration fees. We are only going to charge or anticipate bringing in 8 million on that, whereas before we brought in about 16 million. So we cut those fees in half. Need a year or so to see how that plays out with our fund balance there, but continuing to try to lower those fund balances as much as we can. You did see we do have an increase related to our securities, our Smart Invest KS campaign that we are trying to get out to individuals, promote the website, make sure that individuals are making smart investments and are not getting scammed is really our biggest part of that. So we have tried to put out some more information there, and that is where one of our increases in expenditures is. Again, she's already mentioned the consumer division as a way to help our citizens of Kansas. As far as staffing the department, we have worked really hard the last couple of years to implement policies and incentives that will help us retain our employees and to recruit people. Really, we still continue to have problems with our financial examiners. They're highly technical. They require expensive certifications, and so that is the one area we really struggle to recruit individuals to. But as far as our other positions, I'm happy to say that in the last year or so, we have reduced our turnover by almost 8% because of some of the policies and incentives that we have done related to getting those certifications that we need to meet our accreditation requirements. So we are making progress there. Maybe someday we'll have better luck with the financial examiners, but we have recruited some in the past and are able to keep those. So that's a big part of our mission there. As far as fiscal matters, as Molly noted, the governor concurred with our recommendation, so we would appreciate your support with our budget request as well. We are 100% fee funded. Let's see. We did, again, the other increase in our budget is due to our aid to locals increase, and that is related to the firefighter relief fund. Again, that is a pass-through for us, so our estimate is that collections of those monies through premium increases is going to continue to go up, so we need to increase the expenditures in there so we can distribute that money to the local firefighters. We did do an increase, for the firefighters, okay. And then we do mention, our balance continues to be high. We've done some fee reductions to try to bring that down. And we are continuing we have another bill that will be out there for you to look at this year. Senate Bill 356, which will change the way the examination costs go and will increase our expenditures by a little over 600,000. That'll be another way that we continue to try to decrease our revenues into that fund. And so we know there is balance there. We continue to work on ways to decrease that, and we'll continue to do that as well. That's really all I had to. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bobby. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. At this time, is anybody else that would like to comment? We do, what time was you having to leave? If, I think that we have time to deliberate on this one, on the Kansas insurance. Are there any questions on that? I entertain a motion. You want to?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 2024-2025 Kansas Insurance Department budget as suggested by the governor.
Second.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Say aye. Motion passed. Thank you very much. That's the end of our hearing today, and we'll be back.